Alright, now we can start this off. Good evening, everyone. We're going to be going over just some very basic stuff, and I'm also going to be kind of walking you guys through the process of how to create your own operations orders, just so you guys are more prepared going forward whenever it's coming to creating this stuff. Don't get me wrong, this stuff is more in the realm of the officer, but still as an NCO. Knowing this stuff is kind of cool going forward because a lot of this stuff is super important whenever you're getting into creating your own operations. Because a lot of people here, you guys like to have fun on the Game Master servers, on the pubs and stuff like that, creating your own operations. Going forward, knowing how to create your own operations will just set you up for success. Like I said, especially when you're briefing the personnel that are doing your operations, this is kind of a part of that part of doing that. So that's what we'll obviously be going over. So the first thing that I want to teach you guys is going to be the 5 W's. The 5 W's is basically the base of anything you're doing whenever you're doing an operation and you're doing a briefing and stuff like that. So the 5 W's is the first thing you always need to consider. Whether you're the person giving the operation or like wherever you're at in the chain of command, the 5 W's is super important, because if you don't understand the 5 W's of an operation, then you're not really going to know what you're doing going into the operation. So this here is obviously the 5 W's in no specific order. It's just the order that I know it: who, what, when, where, and why. So super simple. KISS. Like, I don't keep it simple, stupid. That's another good one. Yeah, we're going to go and do an example of a 5 W's, because every time you're giving a briefing, that's what you need to understand. You need to take away from that briefing. So, who are we? Who are we attacking? What are we doing? When, where, and why? And all this stuff will come on later on down the line when we're building up these OPORDs and stuff like that. And like I said, I'll show you guys the full process here whenever building all of these. All right, so 5 W's first. So we got, like I said, we got who, what, when, where, and why. So we're gonna go ahead and do the who first. So we're gonna move over here, and we're gonna work on the who. So, who are we? We are the 75th Ranger Regiment. And then, if you know who you're going up against, that's usually always decent. You're gonna mark who that is. So, for instance, let's just say we're going up against 76th Russian Guard Airborne Division. That's too easy. So, we just did this. We just did the who, and that took us less than 5 seconds. Right? That's too easy. Next, we're going to go ahead and do the what. So, what are we doing? So, maybe we're setting an ambush. 75th Ranger Regiment is emplacing an ambush on Rust Mill convoy. Boom, that's the what. Then we're going to go ahead and do the when. So there's 2 different ways of doing the when here in the regiment, and it's super simple. Let me do who, what, when. You can do in-game time, but you can also do local time. So you can do the actual. So for instance, you can do like the when are you loading into the server? Maybe when does like the operations start? Because I know a lot of people do that. You could say, for instance, 1700 CST 08 GMT or whatever, or 1900, right? Or 1900 PST. Like whenever your thing starts, that's when, like, you can set as many different time zones or timelines as you want. If you're the person passing out this information, you're going to be the one that's actually setting the time. Like, hey, get into the server this time, SP this time. This is when we should be in placing into the ambushes, so on and so forth. So it's completely up to you. So like I said, just for the sake of simplicity, we're going to say, hey, it's 2000 CST. And like I said, if you're using in-game time for the sets of stuff, you could, like I said, there's an in-game clock that you guys can keep track of. Say 02 GMT, or you can also I know we use 02 Zulu because GMT is Zulu. So that's what y'all can use. So like I said, you can put the in-game time, and like I said, you just specify what exactly you're using it for whenever you guys want to use it. We're doing where. So there's another two things that we do differently here for where. So there's two different locations that you have to know whenever you're doing where here. And that's going to be the actual server and then the actual location on the map. So for instance, if I knew the server, I'd say Hightower Company server, and then I would also put the end game, whatever it was. So I put 26 whiskey uniform. I forgot what the designation code for everyone is, but it's 26 whiskey uniform something, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. It's my 8-digit grid. So this is the server that you're going to load into, and then this is going to be the actual in time, the location and server. And then lastly is going to be the Y. So we got the why. So this is kind of the purpose. Why are we doing this? All right. So boom. That's what I got for my 5 W's. Like I said, and that took us less than 5 minutes. I could have done it quicker maybe. I wasn't explaining it to anyone, but that was super quick, super simple, and too easy to do. Like I said, that's your 5 W's whenever it comes to writing out an operation or something like that. All right. We're not going to get super into depth on MDMP or TLPs. We're just going to kind of go over like the differences here. So as y'all can see, there's two different things here. There's MDMP and there's TLPs. So there's the military decision-making process, and then there's the troop leading procedures. Super simple. As you can see, both say planning in a non-combat environment and planning in a combat environment. So they both are used for different things. As you can see here on the left side, MDMP, the military decision-making process. There are some similarities here with some of these steps, as you guys can see. So obviously we're gonna start with MDMP. Step 1 is going to be receipt of the mission. So you're going to receive your mission from higher headquarters, and then from this you're going to come up with the commander's initial guidance. After that, you're going to go into mission analysis. So you basically take all the information you know about the mission, and you're going to kind of analyze the mission. After that, you're going to go into course of action development. So start to develop your course of actions. Think of as many course of actions on attacking or whatever you're doing on the objective as possible. The next you're going to go into is going to be your course of action analysis. This is your wargaming. So you take all the course of actions you came up with and you put yourself in the mind of the enemy. And you think, okay, well, what would I do if this was happening, or this was popping off, or this was going on, so on and so forth. And you want to pick out, once you're done with that, your course of action comparison, and that's where you compare the wargaming of all your course of actions. Okay, well, which one ends up with probably the best success on the mission, and which one ends with like us losing the least amount of Rangers? Operator Chunk, what's poppin', man? Welcome to the stream. So yeah, that's that. Like I said, the reason this is planning in a non-combat environment is MDMP is a much longer and drawn-out thing. There's a lot of different things that go into the military decision-making process. But the TLPs is kind of like on-the-move type of thing. You can do TLPs within like the crunch time of the time of you needing to hit the objective and stuff. So TLPs is super important. All right, next. Yeah, we'll go over TLPs as well over here, just so everyone can see them. So TLPs we got next. This is going to be the planning in the combat environment. So some similarities, like I said, receive the mission. You got to receive the mission first before you do anything. Whether you're a squad leader receiving it from your platoon leadership, whether you're a platoon leader receiving it from your company, whether you're a company receiving it from your battalion, so on and so forth, you need to receive the mission first. Once you receive the mission, you're going to go ahead and come up with a warning order. Like I said, we're going to get into that, kind of the coming up with of the warning order. It's just basically a warning order is your operations order without all the meat and bones on it. Kind of just a skeleton of your operations order. So you're going to issue your warning order, and you're going to go ahead and make a tentative plan. After that, you're going to initiate movement. So wherever your objective is, you're going to initiate movement. After that, you'll conduct reconnaissance. You're not going to have your entire unit conduct reconnaissance. This is more or less the leader's recon, as everyone here knows the leader's recon. Super important. So you'll have your platoon at an ORP or a patrol base nearby, and you as a leader, whether you're squad leader, PSG, PL, company commander, whoever you are, you as a leader, you're going to conduct your leader's recon on the objective of what exactly you want to do. And boom, so, because you can only do so much based off of looking at a map. Looking at a map can only get you so far whenever you're planning an objective. You can be one of the best map readers in the world, and you're still not going to know as much as if you have like drone ISR feed, or if you have like actual eyes on the objectives. Because you can plan for things. You're not going to see enemy emplacements. You're not going to see enemy troop movements. You're not going to see enemy vehicles on the map. So conducting your reconnaissance is super important in finishing your operations order. So that way you can do your plan accordingly. And then after that, you're going to go ahead and complete your plan. So like I said, you issued a warning order earlier. You're going to take that warning order, and you're going to, like I said, add all the meat and potatoes to it. And we're going to show you guys how to do that here. So like I said, once you do your reconnaissance, you complete the plan, you issue the order. So that means you issue your operations order. And then from there, you supervise and assess. Your whole job as a leader, especially for the officers, is to supervise and assess, or supervise and refine based off of your guidance and stuff. Because like I said, you're going to give the plan and everything. And once you give your plan, the NCOs are going to kick it into action and make shit happen, per se. So that's what's going to happen. Like I said, as you see things as the officer, you tell the NCOs, you let them know, hey, this is happening, I want it to be different, I want it to change, so on and so on and so forth. Would ISR be efficient enough to place your leader's recon, or would you still want to conduct leader's recon? It depends on how well the ISR footage is, because sometimes ISR feed isn't going to maybe be as detailed as you want it. If it's super detailed and you feel like you can conduct a really good plan based off of your that stuff, then yeah, sure. But if not, then you might actually still have to go get eyes on stuff. As well as, obviously, you don't know how old ISR feed is sometimes, or you do, but if it's super old, troops can move around, vehicles can move around, emplacements can be redone and stuff like that. So it's really based off of if you feel that information is good to go and pertinent on hitting that objective. So it's really based on you as a leader, what exactly you want to do there. Well, welcome to the party, Clutch. Yeah, that's that. Anybody got any questions on MDMP, 5Ws, or TLP so far? Oh, I don't see anybody typing yet. All right. So I think we'll be good to go. We'll go ahead and move on to the warning order. So we're going to learn how to do the warning order, and I'm going to show you guys the super simple stuff that you need to do. Like I said, it's basically the bone, like it's the bones of an operations order. So it's an operation order without all the meat and potatoes, like I was saying. So we're going to show you the basics of coming up with that WARNO and doing it successfully. Okay, so here, warning order. Warning order, also known as a WARNO, is a preliminary notice given to units or individuals to inform them of an upcoming operation or mission. It provides essential information such as purpose of the mission, the timeline, and any initial guidance considerations. The purpose of a warning or a WARNO is to give units or individuals time to begin their initial preparations and planning for the upcoming mission. The best way to remember the layout for both the WARNO and the OPORD is Sergeant Major eats sugar cookies. This one helps me the best. This stands for the 5 paragraphs of each: situation, mission, execution, sustainment, and command and signal. You will also hear SMESC as a really popular one. So we're going to go ahead and get into the WARNO itself. And like I said, it's going to be basically a fucking dumbed down version of the operations order. Like I said, it's the operations order. It's the bones of the operations order. It's just it doesn't have the meat and potatoes that the operation order has on it. So we're gonna go ahead and get into that. Some text up here. All right. So first thing we're gonna go over is we're gonna go over the first paragraph, which is the situation. All right, boom. So situation. What are things that we need to include? So first thing we need to do is AO, the area of operation. The area of operation is going to be super important for whatever you're coming up with your with the situation, as well as obviously the situation, or the word situation itself. So you need to come up with like a kind of a quick synopsis of what is the situation. For instance, for this, let me just put this situation: enemy holds the crossroads at Saint Philippe, and that will be the situation. And then, like I said, after that, you're going to go ahead and include, like I said, the AO. That's super important. The enemy force. So the big thing that we use here is RUSMIL. So RUSMIL, RUSMIL, Russian military. If you know the units, you always want to include the units as well. But if you don't, then you just use Russian military. What we want to focus on with enemy force is we want to focus on the number, weapons, morale if possible, and equipment. As well as anything else that you deem pertinent to the mission. So depending upon how you do scouting, if there are other things that don't fall under these categories, you can, like I said, that's a case by case thing on what exactly you guys want to include on that on it. So it's completely a case by case basis on how exactly you guys want to, how descriptive you guys want to get with your WARNO, and including, because like I said, all the stuff in your WARNO is going to go into your operations order. So the more detailed you get with the WARNO, the better you're going to be down the road with your OPORD. Just some people tend to get too descriptive with their WARNOs and include too much information. You don't want to do that with your WARNO, because including a lot of information in your WARNO, it's not supposed to be this huge thing with a bunch of information. It's supposed to be the bare bone version of your operations order. So just be quick, short, and simple, because you're only going to take so little time to come up with your WARNO. All right. Next thing we're going to go ahead and get into is going to be friendly. So this is going to be friendly forces across the battlefield. So, for instance, let's just say we knew that Assassin Company was the only one. Let's say we were like operating in the Assassin Company server. So, friendly forces across the battlefield, Outlaw Platoon, Demon Platoon, Almighty Platoon. It's not Gunslinger, is it? What's the fourth platoon in Bushmaster or in Assassin? I'm trying to think. Anyone in the chat? Someone in the chat can back me up. Well, I'll just put that for now. These are the friendly forces all across the battlefield. As you include more personnel, that's going to go into your next one, which is attachments or detachments. So the difference between this is going to be people that are attached to your element or people that are detached to your element. So if you lose a platoon, they would be detached from the element. If you get an attachment like 160 to SOAR, ODA, or anything like that, they're now attached. So for instance, say we had ODA coming to assist, you would include ODA 0111. These are the friendly elements that are attached. Because obviously friendly forces, this is your guys' like whoever you guys are, but then after that it's the people that are attached to whatever element's operating in the AO. Like I said, you could also include 1/60th sword. Those are going to be like your two most used. Maybe even wanted to do this. And 24th STS. These could be all your attachments, and like I said, you wouldn't have any detachments. Nobody's going anywhere. So that's too easy for your the situation under WARNO. So we're going to scoot that over and make space for the other ones. Boom. All right, that's situation. Next, we're going to go ahead and move into is we're going to go ahead and get into the mission. What's important within the mission. So this is where we're getting into the who, what, when, where, and why earlier. So actually, I can just copy paste that from earlier. Make it way easier. Shrink that down too, so it's not taking up all my space. All right, so whatever your 5 W's were, that is what goes into your mission. Your whole mission, the second paragraph of your OPORD is the who, what, when, where, and why. So that all goes into your mission statement and the commander's intent. So that's going to be, let me type. Boom, that's too easy. Super simple. Like I said, so that's why you want, whenever you're getting a brief, you want to listen in on this part, because that's how you're going to come up with your mission statement and the commander's intent. Next, we're going to go ahead and get into the execution. Execution. All right. So execution. What we're going to do in this, first things first, is the concept of operations. You want to lay out the concept of the operations. The big thing that you probably most likely see from this is the different phases. So you want to cut your operations up into separate phases, depending on how big they are, so that way you're not overwhelming anyone, and people can just remember, okay, well, this phase we're doing this phase we're doing that, so on and so forth. So the concept of operations is going to be that one page of your WARNO. It's going to go over what exactly everyone's doing at each operation. So Assassin Company Phase 1 is hitting this town. Assassin Company Phase 2 is doing this. ODA is doing this. 1/60th is dropping someone off here, so on and so forth. Phase 3, final phase. 1/60th source picking up people here at the HLZ. ODA is exfilling from here. Assassin's going to secure HLZ at this location, stuff like that. So that's, like I said, that's your phases. Like I said, you usually, if you see my stuff, that goes into the starts with. So what does phase 1 start with? What does phase 2 start with? What does phase 3 start with? What does phase 1 end with? What does phase 2 end with? What does phase 3 end with? And then the key tasks during that phase. So task 1, or what's the key task during phase 1? What's the key task during phase 2? What's the key task during phase 3? So that's so someone can simply just look at the concept of operations and already basically know what's going on with the entire operation. Next, you're going to go ahead and you're going to get into your tasks to subordinate units. This is whenever you kind of do it, you break it down per slide. So each, like I said, this is if you're doing the OPORD like I do on slideshows. Phase 1, you would include all the tasks to subordinate units within that first task. Like let's say you have an entire company, then you'd outlaw platoon, your task during this phase is to do this, this, and that. Demon platoon, your task is to do this, this, and that. Almighty, your task is to do this, this, and that, so on and so forth to get things squared away. So let me put that down. Tasks to subordinate units. And then next is just critical information. This includes like uniforms, reports, or anything like that. And then last thing, since this is a WARNO, you want to include a rough timeline. Let me put rough. So, a lot of people get caught up on these time hacks. Don't get me wrong, time hacks are super important, and people need to understand how important they are. But it's just super prudent to make sure that people are paying attention, doing these things correctly. Um, One thing, like people are like, oh, we will be done with the objective at this hit time. Usually, what you want to do is you want to do objective-based time hacks. So um, once, let's say for instance, one element hits an objective. Okay, once we hit this objective, this is going to initiate this phase, so on and so forth. So it's element or it's objective-based or mission-based or task-based, so on and so forth. So that's too easy. The next, we're going to go ahead and move into sustainment, paragraph 4. So one thing a lot of people forget is sustainment is the whole job of the NCO. So if it's a platoon level WARNO or whatever, if your WARNO is coming down from the company, this is all going to be done by your first sergeant. And then whenever you're going into the creation of the, if you get the WARNO from the company, that's going to be done by your first sergeant. But then going into the creation of your operations order, that's going to be your platoon sergeant, and kind of same vice versa all the way up the chain, doing that stuff. So the NCO is the one that's always going to be worried about sustainment. The big thing about sustainment is the beans, the bullets, and the bandages. Beans, bullets, and bandages. We're playing Arma Reforger here, so we don't really have to worry about the beans part. So the PSG needs to make sure bullets and bandages are accounted for, as well as the platoon's casualty collection points during the phases. You don't have to, since this is the WARNO, but in the operations order, the platoon sergeant needs to go over what his plan is for certain casualty collection point positions based off of what he sees on the map and the terrain. Like I said, that's just for preparation, because going into something, it's best if the PSG already has an area set out for his CCPs, and then he can move them around a couple 10, 15, 20 meters based on foliage and all that stuff. Transpo as well, transportation. That's also kind of the whole job of that NCOs. Like I said, whether it's a platoon sergeant, a first sergeant, sergeant major, whatever, transportation is their whole thing. And then, like I said, the CCPs. So making sure those casualty collection points are marked. Like I said, depending on how many phases there are on the operation, on paragraph 4 of the operations order, that NCO, platoon sergeant, first sergeant, whoever is doing it, they're going to, per phase, where each CCP is going to be at, because your CCP on phase 1 isn't going to be your CCP on phase 3. So the updated areas for those CCPs need to be marked by that NCO, so that way personnel are tracking where those platoon or company casualty collection points are at, so we can get those casualties taken care of and sent up and higher. So that stuff is always important. So make sure the NCOs are tracking and actually getting the stuff done correctly. So beans, bullets, and bandages, and yeah, let me add CCPs real quick. Casualty collection points, and as well transportation. It's kind of like I said, this is kind of iffy. You could split this between, sometimes usually the if it's like a company thing, you can do the XO and first sergeant working together, but the first sergeant is usually tracking manpower. So if the first sergeant's tracking manpower, he usually really, oh, how many vehicles do we need? And he's gonna, like I said, he's gonna work intel with XO on that, on what exactly we need to do. And obviously the commander's gonna work in, well, we need to take helicopters, we need to take vehicles, we need to take whatever we're doing, stuff like that. But falls under the paragraph 4 of the operations order with it, which is what the NCO is going to be in charge of. So that's sustainment. Next is going to be the last, which is going to be command and signal. Super important. Command and signal. Boom. Command and signal. So, what's the first thing we go over in command and signal? So, first thing is command succession. Command succession is always important to go over in command signal. Who's in charge if someone dies. So if this is a company level operations order, company commander at top, company XO, company first sergeant, down to platoon leaders, down to platoon sergeants, down to squad leaders. It's a platoon level operation, platoon leader at the top, followed by the platoon sergeant, followed by the weapon squad leader, followed by, who's the next though? If you're a senior squad leader after the weapon squad leader is the third squad leader, then boom, third squad leader, so on and so forth. And then once all the squad leaders are dead, boom, down to the team leader, so on and so forth. So that's the command succession. Next, we're going to go over locations of leadership on the battlefield, or at least what the plan is for the leadership on the battlefield. Just by the sake of doctrine and then just the way it's actually gone, usually the NCO is usually going to be at the support by fire. So that's the platoon sergeant. Platoon sergeant usually likes to position themselves at the support by fire. The PL usually likes to go in with the assault squads and be in the fight without being in the fight. So being able to command and control the squads, the platoon, or being able to command and control the company based off of what's actually going on in the fight is what's usually best for the officers, so that way they can effectively lead their personnel into combat. So that's super important whenever it goes into leading personnel. Another thing that you guys are going to go over is going to be signal, because obviously it's command and signal. Let me put location leadership. Location leadership on the battlefield. Boom. And then next is going to be what was I just saying? Signal, yeah, signal. So freaks. Usually, like I said, you're gonna have a guy making your call signs for you. So this is where you would include your call signs. A lot of your platoon companies are kind of hardwired into what you guys normally do already. So that's gonna be too easy to already know your call signs. So yeah, let me put that down. All right, too easy. Boom. And this is what you're going over in your warning order. You should be able to complete a warning order anywhere between 10 to 15 minutes. That's a real lifetime. Things go by way faster here in the video game world, so anything in 10 minutes and under is what you guys are expected to do whenever you're coming up with your warning order. Like I said, I know it is a lot of information that you have to go over, but you're going to know 3/4 of this information already. It's just actually plugging it in and planning, because this is going to be your template for the creation of your operations order going forward. Operations order. The purpose of an operations order is to communicate to a commander's intent and plan for specific military operations to subordinates. It provides detailed information on the mission, concept of operations, tasks and responsibilities, timeline, resources, and other pertinent information needed for the successful execution of the operation. OPORDs help ensure that all units involved in the operation are working towards a common goal and have a clear understanding of their roles and responsibilities. And the last one we're going to go over is going to be FRAGO, or Fragmentary Order. FRAGO is a type of order used to provide additional information or changes to an existing operation order. The purpose of a FRAGO is to quickly and efficiently communicate changes, updates, or new information to the units involved in the operation while having to issue a completely new order. This allows for flexibility and adaptability in the execution of military operations. So any change of mission, that's usually what you'll hear. If you're FRAGO, it means change of mission. So something in the mission has changed. Something as lowly as comms in that to something maybe as high as like the position of a target or the place that you're going to be assaulting and stuff like that. So that's what a FRAGO is going to be. So like I said, if you hear FRAGO, that's just a change of mission, change of what you're doing, and someone doesn't have to completely write up an entirely new operations order from scratch. It's just a change of what happened. So boom, and that's the fragmentary order. What we're going to go ahead and do next. What we're going to go ahead and do next is we're going to go ahead and go over one of my already created operations. We're kind of, like I said, we're just going to go through that, and I'm going to kind of show you guys the stuff in there. So let me make sure the thing is picking this up. Stand by. I gotta add the window capture real quick. Window capture. Keynote. Boom. There we go. Alright. Let me just resize it real quick for y'all. All right, we're good to go. So this is going to be the actual operations order. Like I said, we're going to kind of go through and kind of dissect it a little bit, just kind of show you guys from the stuff that we learned what is going into. So boom, for instance, this is Operation Big Ben. This is when it was to be conducted. OIC and CIC. This front page is really only needed if you are doing a like an actual slideshow. I know a lot of my officers, maybe you guys just do verbally, but if you are doing a slideshow, cover page, like I said, just kind of shows people name of the operation, when it's to be conducted, OIC and CIC, or patrol leader, whatever you want to do. Boom, and that's completely what you do for that. First thing we're going to get into is going to be the situation. So boom, as you can see, I use graphics. Anyway, situation, I go over the area of operation, I go over the terrain, weather, all that stuff is extra stuff added on after the warning order. As you can see, Evron, Croatia, that's not true. This is Kunar, so on and so forth. I go over the enemy forces, I go over composition, I go over MLCOA and MDCOA, which is their most likely course of action, their most deadly course of action. I go over any civilian considerations, and then friendly forces, I go over Reaper forces as well as public server forces. I think this was a public event, that's why that is. Next, like I said, this is your who, what, when, where, and why. I go over the mission, I go over the commander's intent, I go over the end state, and like I said, as usual, this is I include graphics. The next one, this is when we're getting into the execution of the actual operation, so as I said, the concept of the operation. So depending on how many phases, it could be as many phases as you want, or as the least amount of phases as you want to make the operation run effectively. The more phases you have, it might complicate it more, but it could dumb it down for people that don't know exactly what they're doing. And you include different slides for different elements on, because like I said, first platoon could be doing something completely different from third platoon on an objective or phase, so you can include different stuff for that. Just like I said, the concept of operations, you would only have one per the phase, and then like I said, once you went to the other slides, that's when you start to include the other stuff. So as you can see here, my concept of operations, I have all three of the phases here. I have the insertion, assault, and the final assault. So phase 1 starts with, ends with key task. Phase 2 starts with, ends with key task. Phase 3 starts with, ends with, and then key task. So that's super simple. Next is phase 1, which is the insertion. As you can see, goes over the insertion, the plan, and then I include for the objective SPF, Assault 1, Reaper, so on and so forth. So this shows the SPF's shift and lift, where I want the shift and the lift to happen for the SPF. The Assault one's going to be assaulting from the objective, obviously, over. And Reaper elements, that's kind of the command elements back there overseeing. Boom, I go into phase 2. You can kind of see what the plan is with phase 2. I do the same thing here, and then boom, phase 3, show elements pushing to phase 3, so on and so forth. Boom, that's the end of my execution. Execution is probably going to be your most complicated slide because all the moving pieces you're going to include. Next, you're going to include your service and support, sustainment. So as you can see here, in general, squads and platoons should be prepared for no more than 2 to 3 hours of continuous fighting and need to conserve ammo and all basic possibilities. You include material services. Like I said, I got transport. We had one AC-130 gunship on station, ammo, medical, and stuff like that. And then, like I said, sorry here, CCPs will be set after each objective is captured. Like I said, it's up to you. If you guys see the terrain and you like the terrain based off the map and you can set your CCPs, you include those CCP locations per phase in here. Well, that's completely up to you and how you do it. And then lastly, we have the command and signal. As you can see in command and signal here, we go over the chain of command, the command succession. Any keywords are located in here, so depending on keywords, as well as if you're doing phase lines and stuff like that, all that stuff will be included here, because once a certain element passes a certain phase line, that could initiate something in the operation. So that's what this is for. Smoke and signal, as you can see, different types of smoke colors, as well as obviously challenge and password is still important. Across the regiment, our challenge and password is Ranger, 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 but then down to the battalions, the company's platoons, it's completely up to what you guys run for challenge and password. And then, obviously, lastly, the Reaper combo card. So what you need to include is the combo card for all forces across the battlefield. So if this is a platoon operation, boom, you can just have your platoon combo card. If it's a company operation, you need to include like your company command card at the top. So your company one will have most likely your company's command net, your company fires net, whatever anything like that, any other company nets, and then it'll have the platoon command nets. And then what you want to have below that will be all the platoon comma cards, so the platoons with their own separate comma cards, so everybody that sees the operations order, okay, just for some dumb reason, if, let's say like the first squad leader needed to get in contact with the third squad leader on his net or something, or third platoon squad leader on like their net or something like that, and like I have the comma card at theirs, boom, I can see it, boom, stuff like that. So just in case of contingency. So the larger these operations order, or if it's a battalion level operations order, you're going to see a lot of different comma cards on there from the different companies, platoons, and all the attached forces and stuff like that. So it's completely up to you guys on exactly how large and stuff that is. Like I said, usually the way we do here, the way we operate here, you guys aren't going to need an operations order for anything more than company. Your company operations orders, that's going to be like the biggest ones we're going to see here. Platoon and company operations orders, like you guys shouldn't be receiving operations orders from battalions. You're going to receive warning orders from your battalions, and then from there you guys build the operations orders. Depending upon the type of operation, what exactly the plan is, the company might get the warning order from the battalion. The company might make their own warning order and send it down to the platoons, and then the platoons will make their operations orders in accordance with the company's guidance going forward. So that's super important as well. And then going on to the FRAGO, or the fragmentary orders. Fragmentary orders here are just simply just changes of anything. Like I said, a fragmentary order, if you guys are still looking at the slide here, like let's say like a combo card thing here changes. Maybe they want to change a code word or something like that. That can be changed on here, or it could be as big as a change one of the phases, one of the grids, or anything for one of these phases being off, or they want to change it or something. Any change to an operations order is going to be a fragmentary order. So that's it's too simple. And yeah, that's pretty much it for tonight. I appreciate everybody coming by, watching the stream, learning stuff. Whether you already knew all this stuff or not, I hope at least some of this information was useful. We're going to make sure we take this video, post it up on the YouTube. And yeah, I'd like to thank everybody for coming by tonight.